You know, when fear is everywhere, cities are burning, and defeat looks like it's just around the corner, can one person's voice actually change the course of history? Today we're diving into the story of one of the most powerful leaders of the modern era, Winston Churchill, the man who simply refused to surrender.
So let's just start with this question, because it really gets to the heart of everything. What does it actually take for one person to stare down what seems like certain doom and then inspire millions of people to do the exact same thing? This isn't just about history, right? It's about what leadership really means when the chips are down.
Okay, let's get into it, because to really understand the leader, you have to understand the journey. Churchill wasn't just born a hero all ready to go. No, he was forged by challenge and, believe it or not, by a whole lot of failure. Now, what's so interesting here is the contrast. Yeah, he was born into this grand aristocratic family, but his early career was anything but a smooth ride. I mean, he faced massive public failures, like the Gallipoli campaign in World War I, which absolutely destroyed his reputation for a while. At several points, people were totally convinced he was politically finished. Done.
And all of that builds to this one pivotal moment, 1940. This is where the underdog story turns into a legend. Britain is right on the edge of disaster, and history has a pretty surprising plan for the guy that basically everyone had written off.
Just try to imagine the scene for a second. It's 1940. Churchill finally becomes prime minister, but almost all of Europe has already fallen to Hitler's Germany. The threat isn't some far-off problem, it is literally right across the English Channel. And the main feeling across the country, it's fear. Real, paralyzing fear.
But then, Churchill speaks. And this just perfectly shows you his whole approach. He doesn't offer easy answers or false promises. Nope. He gets up there and he speaks with raw, brutal honesty. He tells people the truth. This is gonna be hard. He promises them struggle and sacrifice. And that kind of courage, that directness, it completely changed the mood of the nation almost overnight.
And look, it wasn't just about giving good speeches. When the enemy bombing campaigns, the Blitz, started raining down on London, Churchill refused to hide in a bunker. He was out there, walking through the rubble, meeting everyday people, showing them that their leader was right there with them, sharing the danger. That built an incredible bond of trust.
So how did he actually turn all this defiance into a real strategy for victory? Well, it was a combination of three really crucial things: powerful words, modern weapons, and, this is key, indispensable alliances.
And this gets to a really important idea: morale. For Churchill, the spirit of the nation wasn't some secondary, fluffy, feel-good thing. It was a primary weapon of war. He knew that a nation that believes it can win is a nation that's incredibly, incredibly hard to beat.
But he was also a realist. He knew morale alone wasn't going to be enough. He needed powerful friends. And his relationship with the U.S. President, Franklin D. Roosevelt, well, it was absolutely critical. You can't overstate it. That partnership was the key to the whole Allied strategy and to making sure Britain didn't have to fight all alone.
As the war went on, Churchill really transformed. He wasn't just Britain's leader anymore. He became this global symbol of resistance. Every public appearance, every radio broadcast was carefully designed to send one single, powerful message to friends and enemies alike. Britain will not break. Britain will continue.
Which brings us to his legacy. And it's a story of this incredible ultimate victory, but it's also filled with a really surprising and fascinating paradox.
So there it is. Victory in Europe. The Axis powers are defeated. This is the moment of absolute triumph for Churchill and for the Allies. I mean, he had led his nation from its darkest hour to its greatest victory. And then, almost immediately after this incredible win, the British people voted him out of office. It's just a shocking twist. The very nation he had just saved decided it was time for a change. It turned out the great wartime leader wasn't the guy they wanted to build a new, post-war Britain.
And this whole arc just perfectly captures how complicated political life can be. He rises up to lead the nation through war, falls from power at his moment of triumph, and then, years later, he rises again to become prime minister one last time. It just proves that leadership is never a simple, straight line. When you boil it all down, Churchill's life is really this powerful testament to resilience. It shows that sometimes the entire course of history can be changed just because one person, against all the odds, simply refuses to accept defeat. And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. We usually think of war in terms of armies and tanks and planes, but Churchill's story forces you to ask the question,
Can words, when they're wielded with courage and belief at just the right moment, be every bit as powerful as weapons? Maybe even more so.